G'day everybody, and Happy New Year. Here we are, 1st of the 1st 22, so see what this year brings. But I just had an idea, just do a quick video on just how much quicker or slower is the ISF that I have in stock form than the old IS350 with all the bolt-ons. So this is the ISF when it turned up a few months ago now, on the back of a truck. Came from Sydney to Brisbane, and I got it in, and of course I had to do the photo shoot with both cars together. And as you can see, they are there's not much difference with the ISF and the 350 F Sport. Obviously the bonnet is different. The headlights, the later headlights, I would love to get a set of those, but that's probably not going to happen because they're just so expensive. And the front is different. I don't know if you can make it out, but the chrome trim around the grille is different between both cars. They're not interchangeable, simply because the bar cover is significantly further forward than the bar cover on the 350, to allow for the extra coolers and the bigger radiator and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there they are. So the cars, I just had them here and just put a bit of a photo shoot together. The rears, obviously they look the same because they've got the same bar cover on the 350. But you can see here that the ISF is a lot lower at the back. Not so much at the front. It is a bit lower at the front, but at the back particularly, it's a good, I don't know, 40, 50 mil lower at the back. Yeah, so there we are. But I have something which is curious, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom in without losing everything. This is because I've kept record of all the acceleration using VBox and Draggy and other things, but this goes right back to my first ever run, back about a year, or not quite a year ago, but I think it was the end of February, I think it was, last year. And the 350 was totally stock, and the only thing I had done was the F Sport intake, but I don't know if that makes a huge difference performance wise. But the 350 is a fairly quick car anyway, they're not slow. But here we are, you can see 0 to 100, 5.64, 0 to 160 is 13.36. These are the best figures I got with the car stock. Quarter mile, 13.6 at 101 miles an hour. That was just a one-off. It didn't do that again until I got the tune and a few other bits done. Then it was much quicker. But 101 miles an hour seemed to be it. 880 over the 8th mile, 81.4 mile an hour. Calculated horsepower, this is just using a basic how fast is your car, how heavy is your car, and calculate the horsepower. So 305 horsepower, which is, if I use a different calculator I'll get a different number, but I'm using the same calculator for all these figures, so that makes sense to me. May not be totally accurate, but it does show the difference. So when we got the car going, this is the best here. So you got to remember, I've got the tune, headers, intake, dual exhaust, and also the sticky tyres, so the AR11s, and much quicker off the line. And you can actually see the not a huge difference, but the 60 foot was the best I ever done, was a 1.971. 0 to 100, that's kilometers per hour, is 5.02, so it's significantly quicker to there, and to 100 miles an hour, which is 160 kilometres per hour. That's quite a difference between the two. But here is the interesting and maybe disappointing. As you know, I only got one run in, so I didn't get off the line well. I hung first to second gear, as in I didn't change, it was bouncing off the rev limiter, and because of the size of the tyres, it ran out of fourth gear, so I actually went over the quarter mile time bouncing off the rev limiter. Had I had another couple of goes, I would have quite possibly taken a couple of tenths off the time. This time here was also the DA, I think, was like 400 feet, something like that. The DA here was 2,240 feet, so that makes a huge difference between the two. But it's a good baseline, because back here, when I first ran the IS350 first time ever at the drag strip, the DA was about 2,000 feet, so that kind of helps. So if you had a stock standard IS350 and a stock standard ISF in those temperatures, those numbers are actually pretty honest. So the quarter mile was 13.267, which actually is quicker than my best ever in the 350. Mile per hour, well, you can't beat horsepower. It doesn't matter what you do. Unless you go forced induction, you are not going to get much more than 105, 106 miles per hour out of an IS350 over the quarter mile. You can get 830s. I know there's one guy that's done an 830. I've done an 840, but that wasn't at the drag strip. And I've done a little bit quicker here. Unfortunately, I never actually got to do the best the car was capable of, which I reckon is probably 2 tenths off here. I reckon we could have done a 13 flat. But that's the way it is. We had COVID, and we had the best night of the year where the DA was minus 700 feet, I think it was. We were in lockdown. So that would have been the night, I think, where we could have had a really good time and got down and maybe even cracked a 12. I don't know. I'll never know. But here we are with the ISF. You can see it is actually slower, significantly, well, a quarter of a second, but that's still a fair bit. Up to about 130 kilometres per hour, it is slower than my modified IS350. After that, so from 80 miles an hour, which is 130, from 80 miles an hour up, it walks away from the 350, which you would expect it to do. Top end's quite good. So we've got a graph, and if we can just zoom out a little bit to get it in. Still not enough. So here's the graph, and as you can see, in the blue line is the 350 stock, and it just runs out of top end after about 180 kilometers per hour. The ISF has not got that much top end, the IS350, but when it was modified, it's a lot quicker. Like to 160, it's quite a bit quicker there. 13.3 down to 11.7. That's the best ever time I actually got to 160. But as you can see here, the ISF is done. It's 11.2. It should be in the tens, I think. If we go well, we've got the next run in 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks away. There are 3 meetings this month, so hopefully we can get to one of them without being rained on or COVID restrictions or some bloody thing, which is really annoying. So a little bit disappointed in how the stock ISF is running, but that was my first run. So I think maybe I have done a little bit. I've done a 4.97 I did that on the new street tyres. So I think with a bit of practice we can get this down. And then once we do the exhaust and the tune, well, it's actually got the tune in it now. Get the tune. So I'll be running the car as is with a tune, with no other modifications. And then later in the month I've got the new exhaust going on, and then probably next month will be a huge job, which will be the dash and the headers and the valley plate leak. So that's significant money there, and that's the last I'll be spending. There's no more to spend on the car after that. It'll be finished. But then we have to get the cold weather, and hopefully we can get down to a very low 12-second quarter mile. But that all depends on the weather. But there we are. So there are the numbers. But it's good to keep track of these things and to see where we end up. And hopefully through this year we'll see some really good numbers coming out in June, July, August, which is our winter. In the car, I'm hoping we'll do, if we can take a second off and pick up 10 mile an hour, which is quite reasonable. So run a 1225 at 118 miles an hour or 117 miles an hour. That would be awesome if we can do that. So stay with me with this little journey and we'll see where we are. So thanks for watching and have a great New Year. Some of you are still celebrating. We had ours last night, and look forward to hopefully a better year, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Alright, see ya, bye.